Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast with the State of Origin coming up this week. We are going to get right into things today, Liam. I'm not messing around with a clever gambit for the introduction. We are going to celebrate the fact that Western Australia have no chance on Saturday because Jager Amir is playing. So we're actually going to make sure that we win in this world today, Liam, because I have pulled out the history books, gone through the archives, and today on the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast, we are going to make the best WA team of all time.
That's very exciting, Jesse. Obviously, as the keen listeners would know, we are both WA boys. We are both Freo Dockers fans. So it's going to be interesting to see what you've come up with, Jesse. I'm sure it's going to be a team full of the Dockers, no?
Well, no, because we have rules. The first rule is like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. That hopefully will keep the algorithm overlords at YouTube very happy. If you're on one of the preferred podcasting platforms, be it Apple, Amazon, or Spotify, give it a review as well. Not if you don't like the team, though. Maybe don't this week. But no, we have some rules, Liam, to avoid descending into Freo madness. So, 3 rules here.
Yes.
Maximum of 10 players in this team.
Okay.
From Fremantle and West Coast combined.
Okay.
So I have to have at least 13 players from outside those two.
Fair
It
enough.
actually ended up being, when I wrote that rule, I thought, I might be in a bit of trouble here. And look, there was a couple of hard decisions towards the end. It actually wasn't that hard of a rule to go with by the end of it. 2 players max from pre-World War II. We need to have some representation. But, we can't have the old meat and potatoes style of football come in too much, because the third rule is team of 23 under 2026 AFL rules. So stand, no medical sub, anything that you're going to see this season is what this team has to play under. So hypothetically, I have a month to train these guys. Also, I'm the coach.
You are the coach.
Sorry, Dean, you're fired. I'm the coach.
And also, Jesse, and look, if anyone wants to have their say, of course, at CMPerfect_AFL, that's where you get our handle as well, Jesse. Don't forget that.
Yes, I did forget that, but now I remember it. Let us know if you're going to say, why is this person in the team, you have to tell me who you'd replace them with.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and more importantly, you're wasting mine.
Don't you love those comments, Jesse, that are just like, gross, no thanks, and then no follow-up whatsoever?
This sucks for Brisbane. No elaboration whatsoever. Keep in mind as well, there'll be some picks where you might be like, oh, that's a bit weird. This is not like a God squad. This isn't like the best. I'm not doing an all-Australian team where I just cram random players into like back pockets.
Sure.
This is designed tactically, and where there's a player that people might go, I will explain the tactical reasoning behind it.
Sure thing, Jesse.
Let's start where any good team starts, with back 6.
The back 6, Jesse, the back 6. So we're going to kick off in the back pocket, is it, Jesse?
Left back pocket.
John Worsfold. Man, now this guy was like the ultimate WA football archetype back in the day. I remember watching him growing up and just being like, this guy's an absolute brute. And I actually didn't know he was a back pocket.
Well, look, he's more of a natural halfback, but there wasn't many good, genuine back pockets. So I'm going to need to ask old Johnny Boy to play small.
Fair.
In this hypothetical team. So he's going to have to take a role against a small forward and just basically beat them until they're purple. Is pretty much his job in this game.
Can I just I'll interject straight away, Jesse, with a little anecdote. After his playing days were done, I used to play basketball at Lord's Stadium in Subiaco, and old Johnny Boy formed a team with a bunch of his old football mates. And black and blue was exactly how they played their basketball as well. And unfortunately, the referees were Eagle supporters, and so we didn't get any calls whatsoever. Those were brutal games of basketball to play.
Hey, Liam, are you complaining about a referee from 20 years ago? Tech.
So, yeah, true. Fair enough. I'll take that L.
First of the instrumental players in this list, he won't be the last because just quietly, most successful waffle club of all time, by the way. Harry Taylor.
You a fan, Jesse? You a fan?
Not a sponsor, just a fan. Harry Taylor handing down the full-back duties, obviously a very important role in any team. I think probably the most underrated player in this 23, certainly of the modern guys. Mm-hmm. I would say Taylor has the least amount of respect put on his name for how good he is. And crucially, West Australia's had some very good defenders over the journey, especially back in the, let's say, certainly pre-AFL era. But a lot of them are small, physically compared to now.
Yeah. Do you find, Jesse, the backs in general, just as an aside, the backs in general don't get as much love and much attention as that? Because Harry Taylor, to me, is probably one of the most intelligent defenders of the modern era. He was so good for Geelong. Obviously, was key in all their big games. pushed forward from time to time. That was always fun. Very rarely, but he did. But, you know, Harry Taylor, I've got nothing but fond memories of Harry Taylor. So it's interesting that you say that he's kind of underappreciated.
I think in the wider discourse he's underappreciated. But I will always go into bat for Harry. I think he was a great defender. I think Sam Taylor also is in that mold as well. You know, I would say he's probably the best defender in the competition at the moment, I would say. And, you know, gets, what, a 1/50th of the airtime of Nick Dacos, if that. Alex Rance, stiff to miss out here, I will say.
Absolutely.
Other back pocket. Now, this is probably the only time I've really gone, I'm out of options. I kind of need to put a really good player in a less preferred position. But I remembered how weird some of the defensive structures were in 25, with like 3 key defenders pretty much occupying space. And I decided, you know what? It's the big 2-6. We're going to keep it going. So Jeremy McGovern, his sole role in this team, McGovern, is intercept.
Yep.
So he needs to leave his opponent pretty much at all times and just go and intercept. Like that's why he's in this team. That's why he's in a back pocket rather than one of the spinal positions. He's my intercept guy.
Well, he's an automatic pick, Jesse, for any defensive backline from WA. Has to be, right? Like, especially if you want that modern defensive impact.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's where Jeremy McGovern sits in. And it's hard to argue that any defender in the modern game, especially from WA, has come close to Jeremy McGovern. And
I think if you look at my back 6 apart from McGovern, none of them I would say. I mean, Taylor's obviously very good in the air, defensively one-on-one, but I think aerially in terms of marking the ball,
reading
McGovern is head of McGovern is head and shoulders above anyone else in this back line. So he gets a spot in the back pocket.
We're going old now, Jesse. We're going old. Terry Moriarty.
Who's Moriarty, this guy? Legend of the 40s and 50s, very well respected. And very fast as well. So I really wanted to emphasize running halfbacks in this team as best I could. Harder because running halfbacks is more of a modern position, and I don't think WA has had a megastar to fill that role, certainly not to the level that other states may have had. Like really, you're probably talking Geordie Clark at the moment would fill that position, and I just can't justify that. So certainly not in terms of an all-time team. So going with 2 older guys that were known for their speed, and remember, I've got a month to train these guys.
That's right.
So they're gonna be brought up to speed pretty fast. So Terry Moriarty going in on the left half-back flank.
Now, obviously, Jesse, like Terry Moriarty is probably not a name that a lot of VFL fans would probably know, right? So so you're going to get a lot of names in this list, I'm assuming, especially the older ones, that a lot of the Vics are going to be like, who the hell is that?
My 2 halfbacks are probably the 2 most unknown, maybe one of my wings. I think once we get to the forward line, there'll be at least a vague level of, oh, okay, that name's from the record books.
Yes, correct. Yeah, well, at least one for sure.
Yeah.
Another brute from the 90s, Glenn Jakovich. This guy, man, this guy, he just locked it down, didn't he? He locked down the back line.
Yeah, and I think very much an old school defender. Luckily, I've got a month with Jacko as well, because I think we might need to train some of that explosive speed up in the modern era of football. But I mean, you could not pick Jakovich in this team. You can't have this team and be a serious team without Glenn Jakovich on centre halfback. He is. I would still give him the nod of greatest Western Australian defender over McGovern, just purely because his ability to shape that West Coast defence, and alongside Worsfold, Guy McKenna as well, in the 90s, the dynasty era for the Eagles at that point. You know, I think you've got to give that to him. Obviously, McGovern, superb, vital part of 2018, vital part of the very good side that got to the 2015 grand final as well. But I think just giving the nod to Jakovich.
Well, he had that intimidation factor as well that a lot of the modern day defenders probably wouldn't have as much as what these guys did back in the day.
I really hope that the hypothetical Victorian team pick Braden Maynard, and I can just send Jakovich to go and just give him a g'day. This is how you actually play tough.
Oh man, that would be fantastic. Actually, would that be good, Jesse? Because we've spoken about the Vic team. Just like, I don't think we're going to do one of those because realistically, would it be our spot to say, Jesse?
I tell you what, I can do one.
Okay.
But this needs to do well. So let's say I'm going to set the views at 250.
Okay.
If it gets 250, I'll do a Victorian team.
Fair enough. That might just get more clicks purely on rage bait. It's going to be great.
There'll be a lot of rage, especially when I leave Nick Dacos out. Where's your Brownlow, Nicholas?
Oh, that's true. That's true. What else to say about Glenn Jakovich, Jesse? Or shall we move on to Sammy Clark?
Let's move on to Sammy Clark, because this has been the most unknown name in the team. And I think that's actually a bit sad, because Sammy Clark has a bit of a unique record here.
Okay.
Two-time Sandover medalist, which is the best and fairest in the waffle.
Mm-hmm.
Debuted for Claremont Cottesloe as a teenager in 1933, which is now obviously modern-day Claremont.
Yep.
And won the Sandover in his first season because he was really good.
Well, yes.
And he won it again the next year because he's really good. Unfortunately for him, Claremont Cottesloe abominably sucked in the pre-World War II. In fact, they abominably sucked before Graham Moss. So it kind of makes it hard historically. And I think even players if you want to put a modern lens on, players like Pavlich is probably a good example of that. Fremantle, played in some abominably awful teams.
Yep.
That were genuinely unfair on people's brain capacity. There's plenty, isn't there? There's plenty in the modern day that have just been David Neitz, I guess, for Melbourne is probably a really good example of that. I don't know how they had a pretty good run for a while, but for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think Sammy Clark, and he was a gun of halfback too. He was able to win the Sandover as a halfback flanker as a teenager in his first season of senior footy. I think you've got to give that some props, and I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to this team seeing how Moriarty and Clark can drive us forward off halfback, because I reckon we'll get some pretty good ball movement out of those two. Is how I've set this up.
Well, speaking of ball movers, Jesse, shall we move into our centre line, our followers and our centres?
I think we
should. All right, let's do it, because there are some names in this list. My goodness gracious me. Starting with another old school player, William Truscott, Brownlow Medal winner from WA, Jesse.
Not a Brownlow medal winner, a Sandover medal winner.
Sandover medal winner. Sorry, my apologies.
That's okay. East Fremantle legend, part of the 1946 undefeated premiership side. A brilliant player, played well ahead of his era, Truscott, and will always be a starting spot on any wing that you talk about for WA greatest teams of all time. I certainly feel, his ability to transition his style into the modern game, I don't think would be up for debate. Brilliant player, lightning speed, just showed complete quality at East, and in very good East Fremantle sides. You're talking this is Jack Sheedy's era as well, who didn't make it into this team. We should show how good the midfield is. Mm-hmm. That was an unbelievable era for East Fremantle at that time, coming out of World War II, and Truscott is an integral part of that conversation. Did
you even look at South Fremantle players, Jesse? Or you were just like, no.
Unfortunately, there's a few in here, including Mr. Glenn, who we just talked about.
Oh, fair enough.
And Worsfold.
Oh, Johnny.
So it's actually 2 and 2.
There you go.
And there's 2 Claremonts. McGovern's Claremont as well.
You're spreading the love, Jesse. I love to see it. You're not showing that one-eye bias for the East Fremantle Sharks. That's good to see.
It does get very... This has, is 3 here that are East Fremantle in the 6, but it's not my fault. We're good.
That's fine. That's right. Now we're going to get into some names that everyone probably knows, I would say, starting with Nat Fyfe. Nat Fyfe.
Look.
What's to say?
This is 2015 Fyfe has been picked. It is nothing after 2022. He wouldn't be putting out the traffic cones for this team at training if I was basing it off the last season. So actually, there's probably one thing to caveat. This is all based off peak form.
Oh, yeah. Well. I figured that would have just been a known.
Yeah, so did I, but probably worth caveating. Now we're talking about Fyfe.
Sure.
The only concern I have is that I feel like my midfield is a bit slow across the board, which is where some of my tactical choices came in a bit later, because Truscott I can also throw into the middle as well as a rover if I need to.
Yep.
But I think obviously Fyfe, it's pretty hard to argue his place as a modern day great of Australian rules football. And, if we're putting prime Fyfe in this team, I'm pretty happy to see him go up against just about anyone.
Yeah, 100%. It's hard to argue that, one of the best, arguably the best Freo player that we've ever had. So it's really hard to leave him out.
In terms of accolades he is, I would still give it to Pavlich, though.
That's fair enough too. That's why I said arguably, Jesse. Always.
And I argued.
You did very well done. Now you said slow, and you said slow midfield. But this guy, I remember obviously we're both very staunch Freo supporters. But when I was a young fella, I used to love watching the Eagles specifically for this player, Peter Matera.
Yeah, now, this is the opposite of slow.
He was the modern wingman before it existed. Yeah. He was just he was fast. He was a goal sneak. He had big moments in his premierships, because obviously Eagles got to success very quickly.
I think you could argue that they don't happen with that material. Certainly not as comfortably as they ended up coming to West Coast, or still Adelaide as it is now. I think that's what, when I look at Truscott material, I think, obviously the wing has changed a lot in the last 30 years, but I have no issue putting either of them on the wing, because I know for a fact, or I'm certainly as confident as I could be, that those two would be absolutely fine on the wing. Matera especially. Truscott absolutely would transition well into the modern game.
Yeah.
Matera is the archetype for a lot of modern day wingers. And crucially, he's not Jay Amos.
That's true. Now, this is a big question, Jesse. I'm going to hit this with you. Are we going flowing locks material like I've got in the picture? Or are we going bald material? Which one's peak?
I feel like flowing locks material is peak. I feel like that is peak. And no man bun five either.
Asking the big questions on the perfect pod.
Obviously.
All right, let's move into an unarguable great of WA footy, Graham Farmer. Obviously one of the most influential footballers ever, Jesse.
I mean, if you get a freeway named after you,
oh, that's right.
You're probably making the team. In fact, the freeway goes past the stadium this game's going to be played in because we're having home ground advantage in this one too.
Of course.
Look, easily the prototype for ruckman of the modern era. I mean, my backup ruckman as well, who we'll come to later, I think also is in this kind of use case. But I mean, what Polly Farmer could do as a ruckman, unbelievable. Clearly, you just on the limited film you get of him, you can just see that he was so far above his contemporaries. And like, you know, you talk about East Perth, like Claremont Cottesloe, and then Claremont, a bit of a success-starved club. I mean, you get a guy like Polly Farmer in your team, that changes the fortunes of any, certainly at that time, where, you know, you probably do have a longer tail to your team than you do these days, certainly at the highest level. You know, completely changes the fortune of any team. I'd be more than happy to put Polly up against any ruckman that Victoria could throw at us of any era and say he will hold his own and he'll be fine. This
is what I kind of like going back, about going back and watching the historical footage. When you see players when it looks like you're watching a game from last week.
Yeah.
You know, because there are a few scattered around. You can see obviously the game's evolved quite immensely, but there are those players that are just, you know, quintessential for back in that time where you're like, what is this guy doing? It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. All right, let's move on to Patrick Cripps, Jesse. I mean, I'm guessing like five, we're not talking about the last year's Patrick Cripps.
We're not talking about Patrick Cripps, who's lost his limbs and kind of just waddles around the ground. No, I think like Fife, absolute ball machine. Fife and Cripps in the same side is interesting. It's something I did really think about when making this team, because ultimately, I know I said this is very much a tactical team and not like an all-star team, but I didn't feel I could leave out either one of them without having a nuclear comment section. So yeah. I'm gonna make this work, and that does mean a role change for our other main midfielder, who we'll talk about in a second. I think of the three, I think I'm gonna get Cripps to play majority inside.
Okay.
I think that's probably the role to use for him in this specific team. Because I don't think I think he's probably the worst of the three in terms of ball use. He's still very good and more than capable.
Absolutely.
I think that's how I'd use him here, though. I'd probably use him as that inside grunt mid. So he'll probably get the most touches out of the three, but he'll be playing that real like in the trenches role of, you know, tackle machine, ball drop, he's on it machine, that type of guy. And, you know, I think the Vics or whoever we're playing in this fantasy world, I think that would be a real nightmare for them, because they're going to have to pick a player physically big enough to go and deal with him on the ground. And
I think it's only right, Jesse, to get a player in this team who's actually going to be playing the State of Origin next week. He is playing, right?
I did try and put Jager on the wing. I did my best. But I had to give it to Truscott. It was close. You know, one can run fast, the other one kind of ball watches half the time. It was a tough choice.
Yeah, fair enough, Jess. And we'll move on to the other quintessential player of the early 2000s, right? Early 2000s, Benny Cousins.
I don't want to upset anyone here.
Okay.
I won't upset any West Coast fans with this statement.
Okay.
I might upset others.
Okay.
I think he's the best West Australian footballer of all time. I really do. And I know that's very much an age and bias thing, because I was growing up watching him. So I totally accept that argument. And people are more than welcome to say, well, I don't agree because blah, blah, blah. And you're biased. And that's, you know what, that's probably true.
Let us know.
But I'm happy to say that Ben Cousins is the greatest West Australian footballer of all time. I think peak, relentless, like mid-2000s Ben Cousins. I don't know if we're ever going to see a more dominant player. And I think West Coast could have won that premiership without Judd.
Yeah.
Namely with Cousins.
Well, he was unshakable. He lived for the big moments as well.
He was relentless. He was like, I know, and obviously, you know, you can't talk about Cousins without the off-field stuff. But I do want to put that aside here.
Yeah.
Because on the field, when that first siren went to when the final siren went, I don't think I've ever seen a player so relentless. It was like you could honestly just leave him out there for 3 hours, and he was an absolute machine.
Yeah.
It was he's as a coach on the field, he's everything that you would want in a mid. He's going to have to play outside mid in this team though, but he's such a good user of the ball. I don't think that's necessarily you lose probably 5% of his quality in that, but I still think you're getting more than just output.
And look, outside issues aside, we're talking about footy, Jesse. We hit about footy, and it's hard to leave him out of any WA team if you're putting one together of all time. Like you just can't. You just can't. No. Anything else to say about the mids, Jesse, before we move on to our forwards?
Good luck, the Victorians.
Yeah, right. When I was doing the graphics for this team, Jesse, I was like, God damn, this team, especially when we moved some of the names.
The only thing the Vics might get us on is their forward line. I reckon, to be pretty strong. And I don't know how much offense we go against that forward line. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident we'd be getting first. I don't know what the Victorians could throw at us here that would defeat this. They would have to put someone like Diesel on to just go after Cripps. That's the only way they could probably manage this. I
can't wait for for people in the comments of the Vics. Get in there. Tell us your team that's going to take on this WA team. I reckon you might be struggling. Let's go to the forwards. Jesse, some big names in here as well. Starting with the legendary Chris Lewis. Versatile. Now, another underrated guy as well, I would say.
I almost put him on the wing.
Interesting.
I was a bit torn with what to do with Lewis because, and I kind of ummed and ahed about this. Originally, I had Farmer on the half forward flank. And then I pushed him back. That's Jeff, not Polly, who we'll come to Jeff in a second. But sure. I was going back over stuff, and then I remembered something that Mick Moldhouse said ages, like before I was born. It was that Chris Lewis is the most talented footballer he's ever coached, and I've got to put some weight on that. Like I can't look at that and say that's nothing. And given my forward line it has two elements of explosivity and quality in terms of like on the ground, the ability to rummage and score. And I think Lewis, much like Cousins, relentless footballer.
Yeah.
So. And also, not playing in an era where there's racism every week, which will help him because a lot of Lewis's the biggest question mark on Lewis is probably not question mark's not fair, but the biggest probably like the minus of him was he was suspended a lot, but he was suspended a lot because he was racially taunted every week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a swings and roundabouts thing. So we're going to assume that everyone's going to be nice on this field and not do that, especially given I think half my forward line is Indigenous, so that's probably not a good idea. And Lewis will not have to deal with any vitriol. If that happens and we get 3 hours out of him as an energizer buddy in that forward line, like that's perfect, right? Because he can play that link up role between the mids and the forward line and leave space. Because I've put 4 key forwards in this forward line, but I'll tell you why I've done it in a second. When we get to the second of those 4, I'll explain it. But Lewis and my other small forward have vital roles on the ground here. They have to be at the feet.
If I was doing my fantasy and I saw Chris Lewis's name in there, I'd be grabbing him in a second.
Yeah,
because he'd be moving up all around the ground. He was a bit of a glue player, right? Held a lot of the team together. A lot of the other players in the Eagles at that time just kind of just stuck to what he did.
And West Coast strength around that era was never their tall forwards. They were a very good defensive team, a very good team for the middle, but you know they did share the load around a lot in that forward line. I mean, I know Scotty Cummings came over and won a Coleman at the back end of that dynasty, but you know, I'm recollecting here, they didn't really have a superstar key forward. And West Coast fans of that era, please feel free to jump in and disagree with me, but I certainly feel like West Coast's best key forward came 15 years after that.
Yeah.
And he is in this team. But certainly, I think you're right, Liam. I think Lewis's role was so important. I'd love to see what he could do with that superstar spine that we've set up for him here. I think he could become, you know, a real problem because you can't just abandon Lewis defensively. Like you couldn't do what I'm doing with McGovern to Lewis and just say, Gov, you just worry about intercepting, don't worry about your opponent.
Yep.
You can't let Lewis out of your sight, not for 5 seconds, because he will score.
He will. Moving on to Jesse, the greatest modern day WA forward, I would say. It's hard to argue with the numbers. Data doesn't lie. Lance Buddy Franklin.
I mean, he's the last Centurion. He's probably the last Centurion we're going to see. I know Cameron got close, but the way the game is, unless we have wholesale changes to the structure of football, I don't think we're going to see another century for a while. So Franklin very clearly dominant in the air, on the ground, and that's a terrifying thing, is that he can outrun you and outgun you. So they're going to have to pick a mobile centre half back to even attempt to go with him. that's a very good position to be in. One of the easiest picks in this team.
Oh, you know, if you chose a WA team and didn't have Lance Franklin there, you're not a serious football talking person. I was going to say analyst, but are we that, Jesse? Are we analysts?
I mean, I am. You're what do they call you? A laugh track?
Yeah, I'm the laugh track. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Thanks for commenting.
So you get a lot of hate. For the person that talks 90% of the time, I only get about 40% of the abuse, and it makes no sense.
That's all right, Jesse. It's all right. It's just people on the internet, isn't it? It's fine.
Oh, well,
it's fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. All right, anything else to say about Buddy? Because obviously his accolades speak for themselves, really, don't they?
There are some I don't need to justify in this team.
100%, and that is definitely one of them. We're going to pull the history books out for the next couple of Jesse, starting with Bernie Naylor.
Now, this is important.
Okay.
That I caveat this.
Okay.
Because there's two key components to why I've selected Bernie Naylor in this team. One, I have a month with these guys before they play in this little hypothetical scenario.
Yep.
And two, he's not that tall.
Oh.
He's barely over 6 foot. So, and I say that as someone that's 5'5", but what that allows me to do is allows me to change his role, because his goal scoring ability over like 150 goal seasons, that speaks for itself, right?
Wow. Yep.
I don't need to worry about Naylor's ability to score. I need to worry about Naylor's ability to win the ball in the air. The antidote to that is to put him on the half forward flank and make him run 2K time trials every day for 3 weeks until he gets faster. Which is why he's on the half forward flank. Great in the air for his size, and having him on that half forward flank. The only concern with Naylor there is that potentially allows Victoria to do what I do with my halfbacks and really focus on those running halfbacks along the field. But then that's why we need to focus on collapsing the midfield with guys like Cripps and Fife and just really clamping down in that section. So I put Naylor on there. I guess the idea with Naylor is that he'll drift into a pocket of space left by Franklin. So I get Buddy to go up the ground because he's got more mobility. And then Naylor ends up in that kind of hotspot area.
Yeah.
Ideally against a defender that can't go with him aerially. And it just allows him to collect the ball, and he's not going to miss. If he gets a set shot, he won't miss. This, Naylor and the next guy we're going to talk about, if they're getting a set shot anywhere within 40 metres of goal, that's not like a ridiculous angle, it's going in. So we don't need to worry about that.
That's good. That's good. George Doig. He's the other guy you're talking about, Jesse. Legendary goal scorer.
Under 6 foot, so he's going in the forward pocket.
Sure.
Doig is... Well, Doig and Naylor, and there's one more who actually made the bench, but the three that I've gone for in the forward line from the bygone era are just dominant goal scorers, right? They're very much, yes, a bygone era of take mark against bad defender, go back, kick goal. But the fact they don't miss is all you need to know. So George Doig, over 1,000 goals, Eastern Medal legend. You know, his contribution is what ended up nailing the Doig medal for Fremantle.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Naylor has the Waffle leading goal kicker medal named after him. You know, both which is brilliant. Doig is probably going to play closer to home than Naylor is in my tactical setup. He can kind of hover around my full forward and just make himself useful there. Maybe some leads into the pocket because, again, like, the bloke doesn't miss.
Mm-hmm.
He genuinely doesn't. So brilliant forward, you know, one of the most revered Eastern Mantle icons of all time, and a very easy pick in this team.
Sounds like Marlo is a big fan as well in the background there.
Well, I think Marlo's saying I don't like that because I'm scared of sharks. And I think that was the same response every defender in the 30s had to George Doig.
Very good. Moving on to another modern day great, Josh Kennedy. Consistency personified, Jesse, over a long period of time was old Josh Kennedy. Good compliment to Franklin as well, I think.
Well, that's the thing, because he could easily be the most impactful forward in this game because there's so much attention on Franklin.
Yes.
And I would love to have seen Kennedy as a second banana. I don't think Jack Darling would have had half the career he did without Josh Kennedy taking all that attention in those West Coast teams. It's amazing that you can trade Chris Judd and still end up as the winners of the trade.
Yeah.
And that's what Kennedy ended up being for West Coast, right? Like they won the trade off that. Brilliant forward. Another one, probably cut from the same cloth as Doig and Naylor in terms of not missing. He's going to stay close to home. I'm not going to get JK to push up the ground. He's playing an old school key forward role here, or old school full forward role. He's staying back. His responsibility is to be in that goal square or within that hot spot, because I've got Doig around him. Now they can drift back and be an aerial target as well. But essentially, I want that leading lane free in case someone like Doig goes forward and Naylor drifts back.
Yep.
So Kennedy's playing an old school brute of a key forward. And you know what? They're going to have to put an old school full back on him. So probably not very mobile. So all of a sudden, when I make my interchange rotations, that's our chance to really hammer on some goals.
Chaos, Jesse.
Chaos.
Every good team needs chaos. And I think that's what this next guy is going to bring us a little bit of. That's Jeffrey the Wiz Farmer.
I don't think I've seen a more pure footballer at Fremantle than Jeff Farmer.
How good is he?
There was... we didn't even see the best of him in purple. His best was at Melbourne.
Yeah.
But his quality, indisputable. And such a good player in the air, such a good player on the ground. I'm keeping him close to home. Originally, I had him on the half-forward flank. That was probably a mistake. I think closer to home is probably the best place to use Jeff Farmer in this team. Because simply, I think he might stand on Josh Kennedy's head and take the mark of the millennium.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like this is the thing you need about you need with Jeff Farmer is that electricity, that excitement, that that pizzazz that a lot of these other players don't really seem to have. As the same as the Wiz would do. Like he was so exciting to watch, and every time he did anything, you were like, oh, here he comes, here comes the Wiz. How could you not put him in?
I think he is a. He was one of the first names in the team sheet as well. Maybe there's others better than him, but I think in terms of filling that position specifically, it was one of the first names on the team sheet because I was like, well, this is exactly who I want in my forward line.
Well, we've got a pretty strong team, Jesse, but any good, strong team needs a good, strong interchange to rotate through. So we're going to move to the interchange right about now, starting with Graham Moss.
That's a good bench.
It's a very good bench, Jesse. 3 of those names I couldn't tell you about. Let's go from the first one, which is Graham Moss. Tell me about him.
Well, Liam, if you paid attention to our Brownlow video,
which I edited
a couple of months ago, I told you all about Graham Moss, but you ignored it. So Moss, obviously, probably known to a Victorian audience more for his Essendon exploits. He was named as one of the Essendon's best players of all time, despite barely playing there, which really says all you need to know. But an icon at Claremont. He's the one that changed the fortunes of the Tigers. So Sammy Clark walked, so Graham Moss could run down at Claremont and really help them become a big club in the waffle and establish themselves there. But look, I think Moss and Polly Farmer, without obviously 2026 rules, so I did really have a think about, well, how am I going to exploit that with like the lasso rule, those type of issues, so less contested things. So I really went for those ruckmen who I think could transition well into that. Nick Naitanui almost got a spot in this team based on that, but I couldn't leave. I definitely wasn't going to leave Polly Farmer out for Naitanui, and I think if I lined it up, I was comfortable with Moss over Naitanui. And Dean Cox as well, to the same degree. I mean, Cox is very much the modern ruck prototype of the 21st century, and he's probably the next pick on this overall team. He's probably one of the most unlucky ones to miss out here. But with the two, I've specifically picked 2 rucks. I think Moss and Farmer rotating will be fine. I could also throw in. I've got some options to throw in as well if I need to. But those two alone will be fine.
I reckon that Nui might be the one, and probably Cox will be the 2 probably most contentious ones that we'll probably get comments about, I would say. But you've explained it well, Jesse. I'm
comfortable with my pick. I understand why I picked, but also I had the 10-player rule as well.
Yes, correct.
West Coast and Freo. So you do have to work within that a little bit.
Of course. Let's move on to Austin Robertson Jr.
Potentially the best pure goal kicker of all time. And I know I've just banged on about Naylor and Doig for 5 minutes, but I mean, over 1,200 goals, that kind of speaks for itself in some pretty awful Subiaco sides. That's also worth crediting. I think he's just the one, though, that I don't know how. I didn't really have a place for him. I didn't think he'd be able to get that mobility the same way that Naylor or Doig could. And I wasn't going to play him in one of my spinal positions over Kennedy or Franklin in 2026 rule. So I put him on the bench. He'll get little bursts in at full forward, rotate around. Ultimately, he's a guy that they're going to have to pay attention to. So perfect candidate, especially given he'll be likely to be on some older school fullbacks. And whilst I'm hoping my Victorian counterpart picks, which will just be myself in a wig, hopefully we can get some bigger fullbacks to just panic a bit. Robertson gets free kicks right in front of goal. Another one who won't miss if he's given an opportunity.
Nice one. And then obviously we've got Big Bill Walker in there as well.
Well, big is a bit of a misnomer here because Bill Walker is tiny. He's a very small man, which I couldn't not pick the guy that won 4 Sandover medals, right? I couldn't. Of course, do that.
Sure.
But I almost didn't because he did get a leading goal kicker at Swans in 1961, so he can score.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly didn't have a spot for him in the starting 22. Sorry, the starting 18. I didn't have a spot for him there. So I've put him on the bench. Midfield-wise, he'll rotate with probably Cripps, and I'll make him go in and under, which is, I know it sounds a bit mean, but he was very good at the in and under role. And then depending on how we're going forward-wise, he can have a stint in the forward pocket if I need rotation.
Very good. Ross Glendenning, Jesse, elite for his time.
There are better players than Glendenning that haven't made this team, but Glendenning's made it because he can play centre half back on centre half forward to a very good standard. That's good enough for me. That when you're doing bench players, you're specifically picking to fill gaps in your team, right? Or give your established 18 a break. Yep. And how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to get a guy that can go and play that defensive role. You know, with McGovern playing a back pocket as well, I can do a double rotation and put Glendenning at halfback and McGovern at fullback. And then that allows me to have both Jakovic and Taylor for a rest if I need to at the time. You know, I've got options tactically with that. So that is perfect. Obviously, centre half forward. I don't think I'll need him at centre half forward, but it's a great tool to have.
Yeah.
If things aren't going well and Naylor and Doig just aren't having any impact, can try something with Glendenning.
And we'll round it out, Jesse, with another flair player, Michael Sonny Walters. You know, obviously recently finished up his AFL career as well, same as Fifey. But I mean, it's how good is he, Midland boy?
This is 2019 Michael Walters. I'm taking 2019 Michael Walters.
I love how you've done this only for the Freo players. You're specifically putting a year on it. This is when. Yeah, and only then.
I mean, to be fair, I'd say 2018 McGovern, 06 Cousins.
Okay.
19 Cripps.
Mm-hmm.
5. I'd say 19. Actually, no, I'll go Cripps a bit later. I'll probably go Cripps 22. 19-5 was better than 15, just quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And then who else can we go? Let's go good old-fashioned 94 Worsfold as well. Bit of meat and potatoes there.
I'd love for you to do one of the old school players, like pure 1920s.
Well, I mean, let's go 1933 Sammy Clark as well. Just pick the poor teenager up and say, all right, off you go. You're now playing on Gary Ablett Jr. Have fun. But no, I have a lot of complaints about Jocelyn Longmuir.
What? That's crazy. I've never heard you say anything bad about him.
I know. What Ross did with Sonny in 2019, getting him to play midfield minutes, and him all of a sudden becoming one of the best players in the competition, brilliant.
Mm.
And then it just stopped. And I don't know whether that was Sonny's decision, whether it was Jayla's decision. Put him back in. So Walters is in here because I can put him in the forward pocket. I can put him on the half forward line. If I need something chaotic, I can put him in the guts for a couple of contests and then swap him out. That's okay for me to do.
Mm.
If the Victorians are playing a really fast midfield, Sonny can go in for a centre bouncer too.
Yeah. No.
To kind of antidote, because like I said, it's a slow midfield, right? Walker reasonably fast, but I can run a small midfield with Truscott, Sonny, Cousins, and that can counteract that. So I've got options there.
Look at you, Jesse. Such a smart boy. You know, I love your knowledge of all things WA football going back right to probably not WA football, Jesse, probably football in general. It's very good. It teaches me a lot as well as a nuffy. It's great.
I'm glad you learned something.
Yes, I did. So you've gone through a few names that you think you probably should have put in there. Any other names stick out that, Jesse, that were unlucky to miss the team?
Ooh, I think Nat Nui and Cox are both.
They're the two main ones, I think.
Yeah, they're probably the two that were really unlucky. Rance as well.
Yep.
I think my preference. Taylor obviously can go forward. He shouldn't need to in this team as well, but that probably did help.
Mm.
Is I wanted a team that was as versatile as possible, because obviously I don't know what Victoria are throwing out here. So I've picked a team based on chances to win the game, and this is kind of where I ended up. Jack Sheedy was unlucky for a midfield spot as well. Mr. Football. I mean, it's pretty hard to leave out someone called Mr. Football, but I did. Sorry, Jack. Actually, I met Jack before he passed away too, so it made me feel even worse. But I had to leave him out. Didn't really have a choice there. But no, I think they're probably the main ones I would nominate. If anyone has one in the comments, like why didn't you mention them? Tell me about it, and I'll answer you in the comments.
Very good, Jesse. Very good. Well, that'll be a wrap, Jesse, on the best WA team of all time. As Jesse mentioned, if you've got anything to say, leave it in the comments down below. Very interested to hear what you do think about this team. And look, even though Jesse's explained why he didn't put those people in the team, go ahead and whinge about it anyway.
They won't listen. There'll be one that just won't listen.
I know. Without fail, every week, it's just kind of like, there'll be a whinge. It's like, well, we talked about it. Doesn't matter. See?
Thank you everyone for tuning into the 70 Minute Perfect AFL podcast. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If we get 250 views on this, I'll do a Victorian one as well. Don't know when, but I'll do one. I promise. Maybe a deep dive in a buy round. If you enjoyed that, like, subscribe, podcast, leave a review. Best review you can give us though is word of mouth. So please, to your friends, to your family, tell every West Australian to jump on here and see what they think. One public service announcement before we go as well. Our fantasy football field is closed.
Yeah,
we have
full.
20 entrants joined in, so that is apologies to those who didn't get in. Thank you to everyone who has joined as well. So we'll start looking at some teams there. I think we'll very briefly do the results in each week's Just the Tips as well. Just mention who's winning. We'll do team names only, but we'll mention who's winning each matchup and kind of who's who in the zoo. But Liam,
yes,
very much looking forward to that. It should be good fun.
Look, I'm excited now. We've got some investment in the competition as well. I'm intrigued to see who gets up on top every week. We'll go through that in tips and trades, along with just the tips as well. We've got it all coming up, Jesse. It's all going to be very exciting. The season is not too far away. Get it going.
We'll see you and probably everyone else tomorrow when the next episode comes out. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.